and the guardian angels of God, those who traveled from afar. Then it goes on to say, Simyasa, the heavenly sons and guardian angel of God, the great ruler of those who travel from far away through the space of the universe, created with an earth wife, Adam, the father of the wise, intelligent race. Well, we heard earlier in the contact notes also about Simyasa, how he created Adam, and then he created another woman, an Eva, and coupled them together and started this genealogical chain, which is going to end up with Emmanuel. Adam took an earth wife and created Seth. And then it shows in the book here, it shows you the entire tree. Seth created Enos, Enos created Achabil. It goes all the way through down 80 generations to the point where Jacob created Joseph. Now, Joseph, of course, is the stepfather of Emmanuel because he was not the real parental father. Joseph was the spouse of Mary, the mother of Emmanuel, who became pregnant by a distant descendant of the son Rachel, who was the guardian angel of the secret. It doesn't say much more about this. Rachel, he's not Emmanuel's father either. He somehow is I guess he's the father of Emmanuel's father. At any rate, it goes on to explain here that actually Emmanuel's father was Gabriel, a messenger who impregnated Mary, and he was one of the guardian angels of the sons of heaven. He was a Plejadian, by the way. So it goes on to explain that, and then it explains, of course, the story how this actually happened. That a guardian angel then comes to Joseph, who is Gabriel, and explains how important it is to Joseph that he actually marry Mary. Now, Joseph, of course, had found out that Mary was pregnant, and in those times, even as it would be now, that if you were engaged to someone and she suddenly became pregnant by someone else, you'd have a few questions. And then you probably would decide that could be cause to even cancel the wedding. And Joseph had thought those ways also. So Gabriel came to him and explained to him how important it was that Mary had been impregnated 11,000 years after Simyasa created Adam to fulfill the prophecy of God, who spoke through the prophet, I believe it's pronounced Jesaja, Jesaja. Those of you who are into the history of this may know better than I. He prophesies that, behold, a virgin will be impregnated by a son of heaven before she is married to a man before the people. By the way, you should know that Mary herself, who was Emmanuel's mother, was Illyrian by descent. God and his followers came from afar, from the depths of the universe, and created a new race with the early women of this earth. And that's exactly what really happened. So, and according to this book, it says, honor of the man of earth is due God, for behold, he is the true originator of the white, wise generations of people on earth. You see, the gods, the celestial sons, were of Illyrian descent, who were a white race, very blue-eyed, sometimes green-eyed people, and were you might say, the more beautiful-looking people. And they created, when they intermingled with the then-developing earth human beings here on earth, who were brown-skinned, they created their own white race here, which was far better-looking and more evolved than the developing earth human beings, who were not as old and were not nearly as developed. So this is what they're referring to. It also goes on to say that God reigns over the earth, the Lord of the celestial sons and men of this white race. Now bear in mind also that when the Pleiadians are talking about God, they're talking about there are many gods. God is a king of wisdom. He is an Ishwish. And there have been many gods on different planets. There is not just one God. They're referring to the God over the three developed human races here on earth. God is the lawgiver of this human race, and his wishes shall be obeyed. Mary became pregnant by the law of God. It was decreed that Emmanuel be born. Gabriel was chosen as the father. Mary was chosen as the mother. And so that what was filled was the law of God. So Joseph hears this, and he agrees to wed Mary. And we know about that at any rate. So, of course, they are married. Mary is already impregnated, and by the way, it was not done with any magic, possibly with some sort of artificial insemination. We don't know for sure, but it was either that or it was physical. At the time, Caesar Augustus decreed that a census of the world should be happening. We know about that, and that's what brought Joseph and Mary into Bethlehem, because that's where Joseph's origins were. That's where his family came from. So he returned there to be counted. And the time they were there, apparently it was pretty busy in town, and it was time for Mary to have her baby, but there was no room. At the inns, they couldn't find any room, so they had to sleep in the straw, of course, outside, and Emmanuel was born in the straw. Well, at the time, Herod Antipas, who is the governor, hears of the birth from some wise men. Apparently what has happened, that there's a light in the sky, like a big tail of the comet, they call it, and 3 wise men come all the way from the Orient. They hear voices from this light in the sky, and they are told that a great king of wisdom has been born, and they should follow this. They do. They come all the way from the Orient, and they appear before Herod Antipas, and explain that they had followed this light in the sky, that they heard that a great and powerful new king had been born, which will bring great wisdom to the people. So they follow it. Herod was very frightened by this, as we read in our own Bible stories, and thought this new king might exercise some cruel power. He was probably rather concerned that it might throw him out of office. And he wanted to know where this newborn child was. Well, the 3 wise men told Herod that, he says, well, in Bethlehem, in the Jewish land, for it was written by the prophet Micah. And so at this point they didn't know exactly where, but they were quite sure that it was going to be in Bethlehem because of this prophecy. Well, Herod asked the wise men to continue on, to go to Bethlehem and see this young child, and then let him know exactly where it was, because he wanted to follow up himself to adore this young child. Well, the 3 wise men then took off on their own, and again they followed the light in the sky that led them to Bethlehem, and where they found this new child, Emmanuel, born there with Mary. And of course they brought their gifts, which we've all heard about, of gold, incense, and myrrh. Right after they had been there and given their gifts, again the light appeared in the sky, it says, and a voice from the sky told the 3 wise men not to return to Herod, as he had planned harm to the child. Well, the 3 wise men, that was enough for them, so instead of going back to Herod, they took a different path and went back to the Orient their own way, on a different way home. Gabriel then appeared to Joseph and told him to take the child and go to Egypt. Because of the problem with Herod, he didn't want the child harmed in any way, so he told Joseph, take the child to Egypt and I'll deal with Herod, and I will let you know when it's time to return. After a period of time, apparently Gabriel has done whatever he did, sent a messenger to Herod or whatever, calmed Herod down, who then has a change of heart and pronounces that he is no longer has any, I guess you call it, a grudge against this newborn child, and now that he understands that he is merely a king of wisdom. So Joseph and Mary return, they leave Egypt and they return to Galilee, where they live in the city of Nazareth. And this then fulfills the prophecy that says that the Nazarene shall be called Emmanuel, because now he lives back in the city of Nazareth. At a certain age, and I don't know what it is, Emmanuel goes to John the Baptist, who at that time was preaching at the banks of the Jordan River. He was preaching according to the laws of God, the same that Emmanuel had learned. He was preaching that the creation was the holder of the secret of secrets, that God was the ruler of the human race, but also revered creation. And people from Jerusalem and Judea all over came to be baptized by John. He again thrashed out at the Pharisees and called them vipers and so forth, and was speaking strongly for the teachings of God. Emmanuel came to him, and when he did, John was surprised and says, well, I need to be baptized by you, for you are of greater wisdom than I. Emmanuel says, let it happen now, for it is up to us to fulfill all justice, since we are both sons of the earth. So John baptized Emmanuel. Shortly right after that, as Emmanuel comes out of the river after he's been baptized, there's a bright light all overhead.